everyone. I'm Megan. I work with the Atlanta Urban Debate League, and today we're going to be talking about 2AC responses to the capitalism critique on the Genetics Aff. First, a quick note. This video focuses on the evidence that's provided in our packet, but please also feel free to make analytical arguments based on why you feel the K is logically incorrect. This makes your debates a lot more interesting and fun. First, we'll talk about the permutation, which is Hale 2018. In this permutation argument, the affirmative will argue that there is nothing preventing the judge from voting to both do the plan while also thinking about problems with capitalism. Specifically, it argues that the judge should prefer the plan because it solves the problem and also questions capitalism. This card argues that the plan's intellectual property promotes innovation and that any reforms on intellectual property must work within current norms for maximum effectiveness. It also argues that different solutions can work jointly, and this approach should be preferred because it creates the highest possibility for a solution. For example, the government could buy patents to make sure that patented innovations could be used for the good of everyone. That's something that is only possible under the world of the perm because it resolves issues that the alt calls attention to while also using the government and working within existing institutions, which is what the Aff calls for. Next, we have the VATS 2020 card, which is the no link card. In this no link card, the author argues that the plan actually challenges the system of capitalism. This is an important argument because if you win this argument, it means that even if the judge agrees with the negative that capitalism is bad and causes climate change, that's not a reason to reject the Aff. Specifically, this VATS 2020 card argues that the theft of genetic material without compensation is in itself capitalist. This card argues that capitalism endorses the ownership of those who are considered less than human, and that the current way that patent law is interpreted, or its political economy, as the card says, reinforces racial inequality by favoring white people. Next, we have the alt fails card, which is phrase 2013. In this alt fails card, the argument is that revolutionary actions ultimately fail by leading to other problems, such as exploitation of knowledge and inventor protection, or lack of inventor protection. Specifically, phrase suggests that abandoning institutions entirely is unsustainable and only leads back to those original institutions. With this in mind, phrase advocates for non-reformist reform, which creates reforms that weaken capitalism but still exist within its institutions. And the difference between revolutionary action and reform is that revolutionary action is when something is changed by overthrowing the institution, such as when intellectual property is abolished entirely, as the alt says. Meanwhile, reform is when something is changed within an institution, such as the Aff's call to implement intellectual property laws that help protect the rights of people who have less power. This is an example of non-reformist reform because it weakens capitalism, but it's still something that solves the solution by using an existing institution, which makes it more effective. If you win this alt fails card, that's very important because it defangs the K. Essentially, it gives more ground to the Aff because then the judge is weighing the standalone link and impact against the Aff instead of an alternative solution. Since the Aff is something that kind of helps weaken capitalism in the first place, you can say that because they're only weighing the link and the impact and they have no alternative solution, you can prefer the affirmative because it makes a step to solve that problem that both of you are critiquing. Next, we have the alt fails capitalism good card, which is Follett 2024. In this card, the affirmative will describe both how the negative's alternative ultimately fails in achieving any tangible benefits in the real world, and also why capitalism is necessary to solve climate change. Specifically, this card argues that alternatives to capitalism have been historically worse for the environment, and countries such as China lack the innovative capacity to reduce their emissions through new technology. Lastly, Follett asserts that capitalism is the best for emissions because technology and market incentives compel businesses to reduce energy costs. So this card talks a little bit about Marxism. Just to clarify, Marxism is essentially Karl Marx's approach to communist ideology and what is essentially considered the basis for communism. This basically refers to communism and anti-capitalist policies in general. And the reason why the affirmative can make this capitalism good argument while also saying that they reduce capitalism is because they kind of have that middle ground where they're working within the institution, but they're still weakening something that the negative says is a problem. In this case, the Aff says, because innovation and market incentives are necessary to incentivize production of climate technology, that's a good thing. That's a part of capitalism that the Aff can uses. It's also another reason why a perm is better than the alternative because abolishing structures is worse than just using existing institutions. Okay, thank you. And if you have any questions, feel free to schedule a site visit or come visit the DDC.